Yeah, this is it's bittersweet in a lot of ways. I kind of have always had an ability to like kind of put like, okay, dividing lines in my life as to like, okay, high school's over and I'm going to college, and like kind of not leave everything behind, but just like put a stake in the ground and move forward. Um, this is an area where this is something that's been harder to let go than I thought it would. Um, the I thought about it a lot last year when Rob was when Rob ultimately decided to leave, and I didn't feel ready at that time. I feel more ready now. But that has a lot to do with just like life and other type of circumstances and the evolution of all that. But the truth of the matter is, I mostly feel grateful, and I'm grateful for all of you guys. I really appreciate everything that you said. To know that, like, hey, like you're something that you just cared about and decided to invest a shit fucking load of time in, which if there's anything I've done is invest a lot of time, whether it's good or bad, it's been invested. But to know that, like, hey, people enjoyed it, people cared about it, whether it's just, even if it's just the five of you guys, like that's plenty good for me. But the truth is that like I'm just super grateful for everybody who's ever said like, yo, full 40, or yo, Chris, like, hey man, let's chat. Like like take the time to throw me a DM. Like I enjoy it. I like really gobble that up. I love that. It's fun to just interact with people. I love meeting new people. I love hearing personal stories. I've learned about people like, um, outside of this group here, just like people who like when I went to the Final Four in 2018, Rob and I saw Chris. Chris, gave us kudos as to like doing the thing, right? Like everybody else was just like, Rob and I set up shop in the lobby of the hotel, and people came up to us and asked, where's the ticket stand, while we were trying to record a podcast. In 2022, we're at the Final Four, and it was like a little bit more of a full circle moment because people were coming up to us being like, yo, Chris, Rob, full 40, like, love it, like, whatever. And it was like, holy crap, like we actually built something. Rob and I wanted to build something. Like, Rob and I are pretty intentional about how we do things. So like we wanted to build something, but the fact that it actually happened, I think kind of caught us by surprise. I think we kind of thought we were some 2-bit podcast the whole time, and we were, but like but we gained a little bit more of a following. What?
Is it and R?
Yeah. Yeah. And then Willie, I mean, you've been awesome. Willie, you've been like incredible in terms of like coming on, understanding. Like last year was obviously difficult because it was me and Rob, and it was like Rob and I had that banter that we had been building for several years of like knowing each other for 15 years, etc. And you had to kind of come in the middle of all of that. And I really appreciate that. And Trevor, you came in this year and it was a new vibe as well, right? And then Brian, you kind of left off the video stream, but like you and Rachel came in a few years back and fit seamlessly with us and totally changed it, took the podcast to new heights. Like the fact that like 3 years ago you came in and we were like recording via Anchor on our phone, and like really just like a real choppy edit job, like just like hacking our way through the entire thing. And like you came on and allowed us to like think about things differently, to cover the team a little bit more and stop worrying as much about some of the other components of the podcast, and also bring a different perspective to kind of and viewpoint, which like as much as you say like, oh, we argue all the time or whatever, but like we didn't, like you bring a perspective that like genuinely I like will take into account and like think about like, okay, like I have to rethink about my gut, like knee-jerk reaction to things differently, because the way you reacted to something makes me think about something differently. So like everyone's bringing something to the table on the podcast that's like terrific, and I very much appreciate it. And like the friendship to me has always been the most important thing. So like the people who had DM me, like DMs from like, you know, a bunch of different people, you know who you are, people who I've met in person several times, you guys know who you are as well. Like when we chat, like that's just been created because of this. Like I really, really genuinely appreciate that. Kind of rambling a little bit, but Tommy, I reached out to you like, hey, I'm going to be down on campus, and you were like, hey, let's do a cheesesteak eating, whatever it was, or whatever it was that we got that time, where it was like, I didn't know you, I hadn't met you before, and you were just like, yeah, dude, cool, like let's do this. And Chris, like you reached out to me. I was so receptive because you just reached out to me, like, and I was like, oh my god, like, of course, been a friend with you for like 15 plus years, but more than that, like you immediately like came up to me and just said, hey, how can I do this? And I was like, of course, man. Like I was flattered by the fact that you would even ask. So to me, it's been great. I would be remiss to not say thank you to a lot of the people who have appeared as guests on the podcast over the years. Daryl Reynolds in particular, I have to shout out. Like Daryl picked me and Rob up like like maybe a year and a half into the thing, and he said, oh, like whatever. So he immediately gave us notoriety by virtue of being a basketball player's national champion, and wanted to do something in the media space, and picked us up and said, hey, you guys, like I want to work together with you guys. Like he was instrumental and helpful, and Daryl's been amazing. Chef has been on the podcast a number of times. Alan Ray has been on the podcast a number of times. Colin as well, in terms of former players. John Fanta has done just an unbelievable amount of things for this podcast. And that's just a testament to him, because there's probably like 20 podcasts out there in the Big East space who can say the same thing. But just like a huge thank you. John's been on with us once or twice a year, every year. Lucas Harkins, like the list goes on and on of people who have reappeared on the podcast as guests, etc. I'll also just note Brian kind of talked a little bit of smack, but Pat and Emma over at the State of the Nova Nation podcast, those guys
they weren't out yet. My defense.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. Maybe they're predecessors, but those guys were fantastic, and have always been fantastic. And I still text with them all the time. And if I might just say, like the Attitude guys are a pleasure to interact with on Twitter, and I give them a lot of props too. And then obviously A-Ray and Mike, I'm drawing blank on this, where those guys do a fantastic job as well. So like I over at Rain and 3. So like the content that's come out over the last several years, that's been whatever, like credit to them, because a lot of people care about this program, and a lot of people do a lot of awesome work to do that. So I don't know. I've rambled on for a long time, but like to me, the relationships are always the most important thing, and I won't go too far away from any of that. So thank you, everybody, for the time that you've given me, and allowed me to chat with you guys. I appreciate it.